to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
President Warner.
Here.
Secretary Treasurer Horowitz.
Here.
Trustee Pell.
Here.
Trustee Stafford.
Here.
Trustee Welker.
Here.
Sir, we have a quorum present this evening.
Thank you, Lisa. The public portion I'd like to put to the end of the meeting because I'd like to really get into this public hearing for comments of the draft management plan of Mecox Bay. Need a second on that?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So I'd like to open up the public hearing for comments on the draft management plan for Mecox Bay dated September 2018. Need a second on that?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Lisa, do you want me to read this whole notice into the record, or just?
Oh, is that necessary, Martha?
It's not necessary because this is a continuation of
Okay.
a public hearing that was already opened up.
Right.
earlier.
Tonight, we're taking comments from the public about the draft management plan for Mecox Bay. We are going to have a 4-minute speaking time for the public, just to let you know. Our environmental analyst, Chief Marty Shea, is here. He's going to introduce the plan to the people in the audience. Marty, would you like to start it?
Good evening, Marty Shea, Chief Environmental Analyst for the town. As everyone knows here and as just indicated, this continuation of the public hearing on the Mecox Bay Comprehensive Management Plan. The plan is available on the town website. If for some reason someone can't access the plan electronically, either the trustees' office or my office would be happy to provide a hard copy. We have some hard copies here tonight. We don't actually have the appendices, so if you want the appendices, we can provide that as well. As everyone on the board and in the audience knows, we've been receiving a lot of great input on this plan. We're obviously still in the process of listening to the public and considering that input. We had all hoped to meet with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service this Friday to further discussion of some of the endangered shorebird issues. Unfortunately, because of the government shutdown, that meeting has been delayed, and it's unclear as to when the shutdown will be lifted and when we can reconvene that meeting. The intent was also for the New York State DEC and local farmers to be in attendance at that meeting. I think Assemblyman Fred Thiel had indicated that he would attend, as well as a representative from Congressman Zeldin's office, and I think some others had also indicated they'd be happy to attend. With regards to the, that's right, I think Legislator Bridget Fleming had shown an interest in attending that meeting as
Senator
well.
Val as well.
Senator Val as well. So just to give a quick summary of some of the input that we've been receiving. There has been considerable concern expressed about the impact of the high bay water levels on local farmland. We did have an opportunity to get a tour of the Milk Pail farm. That tour was extremely beneficial with regards to understanding the economic impacts faced by local farmers as a result of flooding. attributed to Mecox Bay. And what that meeting and tour drove home is the need to open the inlet as frequently as possible. In that regard, the concern has been expressed at the hearings that the depth of the bay water should be the primary trigger for inlet opening. The meeting was also informative as we got a much better understanding of how long it takes the groundwater levels to drop after the inlet is opened. That made clear the need to allow the inlet to remain open more than 14 days when there is no hard evidence of excessive meandering of the inlet or other trends that are resulting in significant erosion to the ocean beaches. We got a lot of good input from local baymen about the significance of Mecox Bay in terms of soft clams. Much of the focus has been on the need to maintain the salinity levels at certain thresholds through mechanical openings in order to protect the oyster population. Well, the soft clams are just as important, as well as many of the other marine life that we find in Mecox Bay. There was concern raised that we need to look at land use patterns around the bay and look at how they're impacting water quality with regards to residential pesticides and fertilizers and septic systems. In that regard, the town and the trustees need to continue to do everything they can to encourage upgrades of existing septic systems within the waterfront area to new alternative nitrogen reducing systems. There was some discussion in the hearings regarding when mechanical inlet openings are undertaken with regards to where the dredged sand should be stockpiled. It was expressed that sand should remain in the system, preferably on the west side of the inlet, so that sand can aid in the natural renourishment of ocean beaches to the west of the inlet. It was expressed that we need to look at the back shoals and whether or not we can get state and federal permits in order to not only maintain the inlet within its current configuration, but to extend that inlet straight back through the excessive shoals into the open bay area. There was also concern expressed about some of the other impacts of high bay levels, including, among others, the the greater wave intensity and related shoreline erosion that you have when the bay is deeper. When the bay levels are deep, you have a significant fetch across that bay. If you look at the erosion trends, that wave action during prolonged periods of high bay water appears to be resulting in erosion of farmland and other waterfront properties. We, of course, have been wrestling with the need to open the inlet during the restricted shorebird season. While the plan currently indicates that emergency authorizations would need to continue to be sought during the summer, if the inlet needs to be opened, and that those mechanical openings would need to occur in the latter part of the shorebird season, which is in mid to late August. We are looking at the possibility of getting state and federal support to allow for additional openings if needed during the restricted nest season. There's been a lot of comments about the many triggers that need to be considered with regards to when the inlet needs to be opened and closed. It was expressed that the town needs to do additional work with regards to stormwater abatement, and that locally there's a need for posted health advisories when the water quality is extremely poor in the bay system. The goal again of this plan is to establish the needed foundation in order to get a 10-year maintenance dredge permit from both the DEC and Army Corps of Engineers. As perhaps everyone in this room knows, currently every time we need to open that inlet, the trustees need to seek an emergency authorization from the New York State DEC, as well as in coordination with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. In the event that the DEC and the feds support this plan and reference it through issuance of the needed 10-year maintenance permits, that will give the trustees and the town the local control they need to open the inlet whenever necessary based on established standards and thresholds in the plan. That would mean that at least outside of the restricted bird season, the trustees would not have to continue to seek emergency authorizations from other agencies. As indicated, though, we are focusing quite a lot on the restricted bird season right now to try and work out the necessary parameters and thresholds with the other agencies to allow for more openings in that during that restricted season. Lastly, I will just point again to this Beacons Bay Management Implementation Timeline. This is a great sum of the action items that are presented in the plan. It indicates which agencies will be held responsible to implement those actions. It notes what the immediate objectives are and what the long-term objectives are, and also identifies the funding source. for these various action items. So if you don't have the time to go through the 99-page plan, I recommend, again, that you look at this timeline that's at the back of the plan. We also have that on the webpage separately. And please continue to come out at these hearings to express any comments or concerns that you have. And we're, of course, continuing to accept written comments as well. And both my office and the Office of the Trustees welcomes anyone come down and meet with us regarding any questions they have about the plan. We're doing everything possible to make sure that this plan in the end is a plan that we can all be proud of, that it addresses all stakeholder needs as best as possible. So that gives you a quick sum up of what the plan is about, and where we're at with regards to receiving comments and meeting with those agencies whose cooperation and support is vital in order to adopt this plan and in order to get that critically needed 10-year maintenance dredge permit. Thank you.
Thank you, Marty, for a very nice overview of what's going on and putting all the comments together from the previous hearing. Thank you very much. Is there anybody from the audience that would like to address the board at the hearing? There's going to be a 4-minute talking time, so anybody that would like to come forward, please come up, sign your name, and state it for the record. Thank you.
Okay. I'm Marilyn Kirkbright. I live in Watermill. I was an English teacher before I was a science teacher. So I went, if you look at page 86, it says that you're going to, and I'm sure this is a mistake, it's just a grammatical thing. It says you're going to stockpile of sand at the east end of Flying Point. And then it says, you know, blah, 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 and the sand will be removed before the Memorial Day. But I'm sure what you mean is that it's going to be on the beach at Flying Point. Because if you put it on the road at the end of Flying Point, that's my driveway. So I think that's a grammatical error, right?
Yes, it's going to be stored on the beach in front
Right
of
where
the
it
properties.
has been historically.
Yes, correct. Yes.
Okay, cool. So
Because the
if
amount of
you'd like, I
material you
could
would store
reword
there
it
would
for
be
you.
practically very little.
Okay, phew. And also, and it says that continue to allow for natural inlet openings and without human interference, blah, 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 blah. Well, you know, Mecox hasn't ever been natural. I mean, before Europeans invaded, it was opened, but it was opened over by Sam's Creek, apparently. But Mecox Bay has had human interference forever, and so it needs to be managed by humans. And so some of these leave it open kinds of things make me a little nervous, because one of the things that is not included anywhere in here that I could find was that you would include any of the ECD members in any of your plans or considerations of how to proceed. That's another big one. You know, because especially like on, I guess it was page 87. Yeah, I read the whole thing. On page 87, it says that you're going to construct and maintain a berm
horizontal elevated plateau of sand with a 1 to 15 slope. Kids love that. Within channel corridor and a line with Dune Road. Dune Road is seriously, if you look at any map, the Dune Road is way back, and Dune Road is on the east side. You can see how far back it's set from the beach as opposed to Flying Point Road. And so, and people drive in and off Flying Point Road directly. So if the berm could be like at the back of Flying Point Road, I won't write. And then connect on a diagonal as opposed to going straight across. That would benefit also because it runs east-northeast
30 seconds.
like Long Island, as opposed to going straight across east and west. Okay, and that's it. And thank you. I'm looking forward to greater management of the cut.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Okay, I still haven't filled in. Okay.
Good evening. My name is Henry Goss. I'm a resident on Burnett's Creek for the last 18 years. And I've put together an informal group of 65 property owners whose property abut Mecox Bay. And we have a very simple common mission. We would like to get back to reliable, responsible, and regular management of the bay level and the bay water quality, which is what we were used to until the last couple of years. I have a brief letter to the trustees, which I'll read in a minute. Would like to make one other observation. I've met with a number of other residents of, if you will, the inner bay, as opposed to those who are in the outer bay or on the ocean adjacent to the bay. And we realize that our voices have not been as strong or as profound as the voices of those who live on the ocean, some of whom have had legal representation. So we're hoping to rebalance that, because in fact it's those of us who live on the bay who are much more affected by the bay's or undermanagement than those who live on the ocean side. I would like to now read the letter, and I'll leave it. I don't know if you put these things in the minutes.
Yes, you can stamp them in.
Stamp it in.
And for the record.
Okay, I'll give it to you. It says, Dear Town Trustees, Mecox Bay Conservationists, as I've already said, an informal organization of, et cetera, and I have three, and I'm also representing more broadly. I tried to contact everybody who lives on the bay. We have 320 homes that abut the bay, all the inlets and so forth. I asked the town for a list, a mailing list, and they gave me a mailing list, but it was not the mailing list, it was the legal addresses. So a large number of the letters came back, but those who did get the letter were quick to respond, and we have a fairly good group of 65. Could be even more. Well, three things. I propose three amendments or additions to the draft management plan. Number one, when the water level in Mecox Bay rises to 16 inches above high mean tide, as defined by the federal government, mechanical opening of the bay to the ocean shall take place within 48 hours. Why? Well, when the bay water rises too high, the damage inflicted on those of us who live on the bay, and property on the bay or farms on the bay, are immediately affected. And it continues unabated until remedial drainage occurs. And if the town trustees determine that salinity or oxygen levels require earlier opening. Obviously, this would not prevent them from doing so. The second proposal is, when Mecox Bay has been opened to the ocean, the opening shall remain until closed by tides or other natural forces, unless there is a demonstrated harm to bay-adjacent property that requires mechanical closing. Why? Well, when the bay is open to the ocean, the full benefits to water quality, fish,
30 seconds.
shellfish,
30 seconds.
I've got one more, I'll be finished. And other marine life and aquatic vegetation are not achieved until the bay is fully flushed. I've got another comment there, but I'll skip it. The final one, probably the most controversial. In order to conform with efforts to protect the nesting and breeding of piping plovers and least terns, yet allow for appropriate bay management, a deterrent system will be deployed to dissuade nesting around the bay cut area during the breeding season. And that's obvious. That would allow for the opening of the cut as needed and would preclude further damage to the fragile ecosystem behind the bay where we live. It's the ecosystem that is being damaged. In fact, some of the laws you're being guided by says you should also be protecting those ecosystems, and they're not being protected with the way the bay has been managed recently. Anyway, my neighbors and I would be happy to meet with you and discuss concerns or recommendations further.
Mr. Goss, would you like to be part of the meeting when we have it with the Fish and Wildlife and the DEC to discuss the birds? We've asked the farmers, and I think being you representing 65 homeowners, I would like you to come to the meeting. So when we reschedule it and the federal government opens up, this way you can know, they can talk about your concerns and try to address them and understand what we're up against as far as what we're trying to do as far as the management and the interaction between the birds down there.
Thank you. I'd be very happy to.
I'll communicate with you tomorrow, as we discussed earlier.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have means of contacting? Do we have
I have it all.
phone number and
I've got it,
email?
I've got it
All
all.
right.
He's got all my
I'll speak
stuff.
to him tomorrow.
All right.
But I put it on the back here.
Perfect.
My post office box and email.
Thank you.
Hi, Sally Breen. There's no pen here. I live at the end of Flying Point Road. Okay, I want to thank you again for all this. I do understand even better than some of my Bayside friends the ecological issues you guys are having with the depth of water, the salinity of the water, the oysters. I love when the cut's open. I just don't love it when a storm's coming and it shifts over. And the reason why that we have any issues at all is because it has been mismanaged, not by you guys, but the possibility exists. And so I just need to stand here and clarify that. Plus, we did work very hard to get an erosion control district. That's why we do have some voice on the ocean, even though so many people have changed, the properties have changed hands that people don't even know about the erosion control districts, half of them. But anyway, we worked very hard to get that so that we could protect our private homes, and we are blessed and able to do that for our own personal way. On the other hand, and I did notice through all of this, I mean, I am a taxpayer. I do pay $24,000 or $5,000 a year to the town, and then I do pay an extra surplus tax to the erosion control district. So it's not like I'm just taking money, asking people to do things for me all the time. I'm just asking for permission to help myself. That's why we did the erosion control district. But I do want to talk, maybe I'll come meet with somebody about Marty, I don't know who to talk to, about just how it's always separated out that, yes, it is private property with all of its restrictions and overlays, but why we're always,
I don't know, it's always like, yes, the farmers get this and the other people get that and the other people get that, and they're taxpayers just like I am, and I'm very happy to help myself with the permission. On the other hand, everybody else seems to be able, like, oh, so yeah, I need this, I need that, I need that, I'm a taxpayer, I need this, I need that. I'm like, I'm a taxpayer. And I'm I didn't realize when I bought my dream of this house, I turned into the one of the town's most wanted people on earth. People don't like people who live on the ocean. It's just kind of funny that way. But anyway, thank you very much for this. I will talk to Marty or somebody about it. I also did buy mecoxbaynewyork.com because I wanted to at one point go around to all the whole bay and have the whole place so that we could all have information about each other so that we're not fighting each other about things. But I mean, the birds and the salinity and the fishing and all of that is very, very important. And I just wanted to get it all in one place. You have it on the town, but as a private person. So I would like to talk to you about the bay owners too. And we could all get a big, I don't know, Facebook. I have a Facebook page and I also have a .com to try to just get our information all out there. So we're one unit, not all these segregated little people all screaming at each other over one thing or another. Anyway, thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm John Halsey, John L. Halsey, living on and farming on Mecox Road, Watermill. I appreciate your willingness to have these 3 public hearings. Anyone wanting to be heard surely had an opportunity to do so. I still believe the elephant in the room is the water level. That's the big issue. I would like to see a statement tied to the water level figure that would open the inlet as soon as the bay reaches that level, of course, weather permitting. I also believe there needs to be a vigorous effort put forth to develop a working relationship with all agencies and landowners that are affected by Mecox Bay. Excuse me. Perhaps Town Council could put together and enter into the management plan a framework that would be in place to encourage communications of all parties. A framework that would educate new people as to the workings of the Mecox Bay management. The goal of this relationship would be to establish a strong respect for, trust in, and confidence with the ability of the Southampton trustees to competently manage Mecox Bay. I feel inviting representatives out here to visit the actual area has made a wonderful start at informing all as to the issues. The last meeting out here at our farm with 4 representatives from the DEC is an excellent example of this type of learning process. To improve these on-site meetings, all those who come out here must be encouraged to speak their opinion. Then all who are hosts of the meeting must be totally involved in the discussion. No outside cell phone calls or non-related conversations. Looking forward to when the plan is approved, there will need to be people with interest and commitment to the future. The ability to understand the plan and be able to manipulate the flexibility of the plan to properly manage the bay. I sincerely hope Trustee Welker will be encouraged to take an active role in developing this new direction. She seems to have a keen interest in making this work, and she does not carry the weight of, quote, "That's not the way we did it in the past," unquote, that many of us have. In conclusion, as much as I want to see Mecox Bay back to normal, our farm growing food efficiently again, and the trustees spending all their time accomplishing this task, I do realize that this is only one issue of many which you have to face all the time. However, I'm very pleased to see how many people from many different walks of life have shown interest in
30
seeing
seconds.
this issue resolved. Therefore, I strongly suggest the trustees consider forming a small, volunteer Mecox Bay advisory team. This team would be used by the trustees only and act as a sounding board for issues that come up in the future concerning Mecox Bay. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Light was getting me off. I couldn't see. The light was blinding me.
Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Francis Adamczewski. I hunt on Mecox Bay. I believe that the bay should stay open as long as it can without any interruptions from the trustees to close it, unless there's reasonable cause to close it. I've been hunting on the bay for at least a month now, I guess since the season opened up, and the water clarity has gotten so much better. The water smells better, looks better, and it seems like it has a little flux of tide that comes in and goes out. The water is a lot cleaner, and I know the DEC is who makes you guys or tells you guys when to and when you can't open it. It's not, I understand you want to alleviate that and have them have a license to open that up for 10 years or something like that. It's
A 10-year maintenance
a
permit.
10-year maintenance program. So I think with that, I think you guys, you got your hands full. I think that's a good idea, is to try to keep it open as much as you can to keep the water levels down and to keep the water clean. Flushing in and out is awesome for the bays, as we all know. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Fran.
Is there anybody else who would like to address the board?
Will Caldwell, President of Southampton Baymen's Association. Thanks for hearing me again, guys. I just wanted to reiterate what I spoke about last time on this trigger for actually monitoring the shellfish, because I think it's really important that we keep an eye on these things throughout the critical summer months. The one thing you guys, I'm sure you know, that every bayman, the resource in there is affecting them one way or another. Most of us were in there every day working there. But maybe you don't know is the fact that there's only one way for the nitrogen to get out of the system, and that's when the cut's open. But there is something else going on. These shellfish beds are enormous. I've taken a few of the trustees out. Others have seen what's actually out there. If you guys, anyone see it, I'll take you out. But there's so much in there, you have actually a nitrogen sink going on in the shellfish beds. And if they do die, what's going to be released in there is the last 10 years buildup of nitrogen that hasn't gotten out of the system, which is going to be incredibly horrible. But the other thing is, as we work to harvest the shellfish, we're actually one of the biggest people removing the nitrogen from this entire system over the course of a year. I would say there's got to be in the order of 1 million pounds a year of shellfish coming out of there between the 20 guys working, and some percentage of that, 5 or 10%, is actually nitrogen and other nutrients they didn't load it up in the place. So as the inlet does a great job to remove the nitrogen, the shellfish itself are being another source that's being taken out of there, actually the sink, you would say, of nitrogen coming out of the system. So in order to protect that resource and keep it viable for a commercial fishery and also viable as a great nitrogen sink for this bay is super important. The trigger might be, of monitoring shellfish, might be foremost important in the whole trigger system. And I'm sure, like I mentioned last time, we'll probably learn more as we monitor these things. I think that SOMO said they would do the sampling. They said they would be fine?
They said something about that, yes.
Okay, so, I mean, there's a perfect trigger telling you exactly how healthy that bay is at all times. Probably wouldn't need to be pursued through the winter because we're all in there every day and we could see something going on. But for the 7 months that we're not in there, someone needs to keep an eye on that. And when something is going the wrong way, we could say, whoa, we might have a problem here. Can we make an opening to fix this problem? And they just wanted to reiterate that trigger point and that nitrogen sink. And that's it. Thanks for hearing me.
Thank you. Thank you, Willie.
Hey, Willie, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
How is the quality of the shellfish in there now? Because it wasn't really open that much during the summer.
Yeah, it was pretty poor. I mean, on the steamers, we get actual yields back on them when we ship them. And a good yield, like in another place, any other bay, would be like 2 gallons of meat per bushel of shell stock. Meatcock's opened up at one gallon.
Yeah, that's not good.
So there's the shell's open, but there's like nothing in the middle.
Yeah.
It's pretty hollow. It seems like they started rebounding. It took probably till like Christmas before we actually seen the meat starting to get a little better. There wasn't a great flow in there because of that back bar, that whole scenario that I was trying to explain. And I think it was about the 22nd we started to see improvement, but then the shellfish actually went through a spawn, and then we lost what we were gaining. But that's a good thing. We're seeing that they're healthy enough to spawn, but it did take 22 days, I would say, before we saw any improvements at all. And it was pretty much at the point of the worst meat quality I had seen in probably decades, other than the year we lost everything and there was nothing to see.
And it's better to keep the salinity up high.
Yeah, they don't like that low salinity. They're surviving, but they're not thriving. They're just
Because the
they're
DC
holding on.
made us close it today or yesterday because
I know. I saw it this morning. It almost
Yeah.
opened itself
We
back
did.
up there for a point. It was close.
And we closed it again.
Yeah, but that's fine. It ran for a month. I mean, I would still want to say leave it open, but at least we got that over a
Yeah,
month
the
out of it,
salinity-
and we got the salinity. I'm sure it's
yeah.
gotta
How
be
high is the
22, right?
salinity, James?
It was up at 18.
18.
18.
Yeah.
18's good, despite all 3 weeks of heavy rainfall. I mean,
Yeah.
The way the wind was blowing, it's probably gonna open it up again.
I'll check in the morning. Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
Thank
Willie.
you.
Thanks,
Thanks
Willie.
for coming up.
Is there anybody else that would like to address the board tonight? No one else would like to address the board? I'd like to adjourn.
Our next regularly scheduled meeting is Monday, January 28th at 1 o'clock. The meeting after that is February 11th at 1 o'clock. We only have one meeting in the month of February.
I'd like to have the meeting with the Fish and Wildlife, the DEC, and the farmers and the other stakeholders before we have another hearing, so we can get that information. And so you want to,
I would push it because we got to get through a national governmental shutdown before we could effectively have that meeting. So we may have to push that further to be effective.
you want to just push it to February now?
I would say push it to February because they're going to have to get situated when they get back to work. I mean, if you want, push it to the next, and then we could push it beyond that, but I really think for us to be successful in the plan and what everybody wants to achieve, we've got to get everyone around the table at that meeting.
Yes.
Disappointed that we couldn't have that meeting.
Let's
Out
go
of
for
our
the
control.
February meeting, then. Is everybody okay with it?
Fine with it.
Okay?
Okay, so that's February 11 at 1 PM. That's a Monday.
Second on that?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Are you saying, is that when you have the DEC and everything, or is that just a normal meeting?
That's just a continuation of this public
That-
hearing. There was a separate, smaller group meeting so that U.S. Fish and Wildlife and federal folks could also understand what the benefits that the DEC came visiting the farm. Just a smaller working group to address some of those issues. Okay?
All right.
All right, we still need to vote on the motion.
All in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for everybody coming out tonight. Thank you, Marty, for your presentation.
Thanks, Marty.
You got this,
You have to call public portion, Ed?
you got this.
I was going to do that. I was
Want to do
going
that after the reso?
to do that.
So,
Okay.
We're still,
we're still meeting.
still meeting.
We're meeting to do
Yes.
that. We got to do
Yeah.
this.
Yeah,
We
let's,
got this resolution.
Bruce, would you like to put?
Trustee Resolution 2019-9, authorize mechanical closure of Mecox Bay. Looking for a second.
Second on that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Bruce. Is there anybody here that would like to address the board in public portion? In the public portion,
Yeah, any
yes.
subject.
Yes.
Get ready.
Good night, guys. Thanks again.
Stay with
Good
it.
night. Thanks, Willie.
You guys are on to other business, right?
Yes.
Good night.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Rick Burkowski from Watermill, and I just was hearing about your trustee meeting tonight. And again, I'm sure everything seems to kind of have settled down about your Rose Hill Road debacle, as it is still there. And there had been, I've been to previous meetings and heard of things were being worked on and some resolutions maybe in the works. Just wanted to, I don't know if you can reiterate or give us any information of what kind of progress or where we're going or where it stands. Any ideas on the possibility of it ever being put back to the way it was? Because I haven't heard any more. It seems to have kind of quieted down. I know there are people working in different groups on it, but nothing in a public forum that I have seen or heard where this is, where it is and where it's possibly going to resolve that issue at Rose Hill Road.
I think right now, pending litigation and all the other stuff that I've heard, I haven't been personally part of any of the outside conversations. I did meet briefly with the supervisor 2 weeks ago. He had some thoughts. Nothing really came of it much. I know there was conversations with a working group that he was part of, supposedly. I don't know. I don't want to speak for the supervisor because I wasn't part of that. And I heard there's other community members that have been actively talking to the homeowner through, back channels, but nothing that I've been personally part of, so I can't really address that tonight.
So to clarify, the issue has gone beyond the trustee level to the town board level as far as?
Well, there's really two things that happened, and if first off, the town board.
Go do it.
You want to explain how this?
Pending litigation, potentially, so we gotta be careful.
Yeah, I mean, this is a matter that is subject to potential litigation. What we can say is that there are different groups, both community and within the town, that are trying to find a solution. There's nothing concrete yet, so nothing really to bring to a public forum where the public and the trustees can discuss it. At this point, people are Parties are working on it.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
Just, can you just put your name for the record, please?
Joanna Halsey.
Thank you.
So, it's really frustrating to sit here, and actually I watch you on television, I try to come to some of these meetings, and it's really frustrating the way you go, oh, we want to hear the public point of view, we want to hear the public, we'll sit around the table and talk. You said that so many times, Mr. Horowitz, at the Flanders meeting. I couldn't believe it. We need to talk. We want to hear everybody's opinion. I'm sorry to bother you, Mr. Stafford. But,
Excuse me?
yeah, excuse me.
I'm writing your name down. You must know.
Resolution 2017-269. It's almost been a year now. None of you have spoken about it unless we come to you. I watched that the other day. I couldn't believe it. It was like towards the very, very end, on January 18th, sponsored by Mr. Warner, and you seconded that so fast, I had to play it back several times. I couldn't believe it. Amending the boundary line of Rose Hill Road and a maintenance agreement. You said that, and then there's like, I second it. And he hadn't even finished saying it, and you just second it. So do I think there was something nefarious that happened? You bet I do. Will I ever find out? Probably not. But not to have any public meetings on this, it's horrific. And it goes on and on and on. Just kick the can. And yeah, there are people working on it, myself included. But this never should have happened. I actually watched the tapes in December. No mention of it. I watched them in January, in February, no mention of Rose Hill Road. Not until we came, and that was April 23rd, well after you had done the deal. So, and you just sit there. Do you have anything to say, Mr. Horowitz or Mr. Warner? I mean, really, this is nuts.
Initially, I reached out to Mr. Marin.
Right, I was at that meeting.
And I was willing to advocate and work with anybody that wanted to come and have a conversation. I thought the meeting was productive. We talked. We kind of like set some kind of parameters where we're going to go, and then I never was contacted again. So I felt like I reached out, and then I also went to the Watermill community. And I went to the CIC meeting.
Mr. Frankel showed up there, the homeowner. I don't want to use his name, but
Yes.
Yeah, the homeowner showed up there, and that was great.
And
But I just don't understand. Just put it back. It's gone on for too long, and it was a mistake. And certainly not the freeholder's mistake. No one knew about it. It wasn't our mistake. That's all. We'll be back probably next week or 2 weeks. That's it.
I'm not going to say much. If we're going to get sued, I really,
I hope you don't. I hope you can put it back. Have you seen what it looks like now with all the leaves gone? You can really see how much.
Yes, I've been down there.
Yeah.
I've actually used the launching ramp because I went to go to Mohawk, and there was so many people, landscapers down there, you could not even use that launching ramp. So I went to Rose Hill Road and used it. And it was a nice ramp. It was clean. It was
Asphalt almost down to the water.
correct. It has less than half the original asphalt that it had prior to that maintenance agreement being adopted. Do you realize that? Because it was a
No, I
whole
don't
entire U that was asphalt.
Right.
Now
Gone.
there's half of it there.
Right.
So,
Hey, guys, sorry, I wasn't going to say anything, but
all right. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Second, it was, the whole thing about the meetings and the leading up to whatever was done, I didn't watch the meetings that Joe was talking about, but it was described, and the whole premise that it was kind of disguised, the whole operation was kind of disguised as a maintenance agreement. This was no real maintenance agreement. This was a reconfigure of a land swap and usage and so many different entities, it seems, and we've gone over this over and over and over again. But the point is, I wanted to make, it seems like it was disguised as a, quote, maintenance agreement. So there should have been many entities involved in this with the, I know we didn't transfer the rights, but these agreements with this resident taking over and the agreements between the trustees and so forth and so on. And lastly, going back to the the community meeting and all of what was going on, basically the homeowner said that if it wasn't, people weren't satisfied, he would do all he could to make everybody happy, to basically put it back the way that it was. And we were told by the trustees and members of the trustees board that they had a 90-day get out clause, and we can do this and we can do that, which we found out later was never in existence, was never a legal statement or a fact. So, and Mr. Frankel, or should I say the homeowner, wanted to get a feeling of how people felt about this, and he got the feeling. We gave you the feeling, we gave him the feeling that this wants to be put back. Under any circumstances, it will not be acceptable until it's back to the way it was originally. And it seems as though that, again, having public meetings and public input, what's the point of having public input if the public input is ignored? Or it's not, we're not striving for what the public wanted. They didn't get the public input before, now we want to put it back, but now it seems like we can't put it back because we made a mistake. So somehow or another, the trustees know where the residents stand, and I guess probably most of the freeholders. Yeah, you've got some fishermen and some climbers that say, oh, it's a good ramp, it's this, it's better, but it's not what it was, and again, I can't wait to see when the ice boaters show up and the ice skaters, and you've got 35, 45 cars down there that are going to want to try to park somewhere. It's going to be chaos. But you know as a board what the residents want. The landowner knows what we want, and it just seems to be this dance around the whole issue, the elephant in the room, so to speak, to just kind of like, let's hope it goes away. I hope it doesn't go away, and I just, again, hope that we can get a resolution to have it as much as it was before again. That's just where the public, I think, I could speak for a majority of the public wants to see it that way.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you for your comments.
Thanks, Richard. Hey, Fran.
Have to sign in again, or
Please.
Francis Adam Chesky? I want to talk about the Rose Hill Park thing that's going on. I was down there today, went down there. So the homeowner, he had one Jeep in the driveway, and it looked like, it's just like the property seems like it's a private piece of property now. It's like he's taking over more land to come out from his property. It doesn't look like he even needs that piece of property to come out so far, because I looked, he had one Jeep in the driveway, and then there was like this big circle he had with a tree in it, and his arborvitaes that come this way with the lawn out there. I don't even know why he needs that piece of property, or why he really wants it that way. I mean, that's freeholders' property. I think if it's deemed as a park, to turn it back into the original state. The homeowner, it's like he's taken over that piece of property and made it his own for his life. That's what it seems like to us. When you go down there and look at it, it looks like he just came out. And it doesn't even look like he needs that property. For what reason does he need to have the use of that piece of property? If you go down there and look at it, he's got one Jeep in the driveway, and then he's got that big circle that comes out that doesn't do anything for him. Nothing. I mean, if he wants to appease the freeholders, the Watermill Community Society, get the property back, turn it back into the way it was, plant a big tree in a circle like it used to be, put a couple park benches there, just turn it back the way it was naturally, because it looks like a private piece of property now. It's heartbreaking. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank.
Thanks.
Is there anybody else who'd like to address the board? If not, like to adjourn the meeting?
Actually, sorry, guys, I have something to bring up relating to commercial crab permits.
Okay.
And I wanted to give the board the option to either discuss it now or table it till the work session, but I wasn't sure how timely, I don't know when commercial crabbing season is, so I thought I would bring it to the board now. I received a phone call from an attorney at the DEC explaining that due to a legislative issue, they're not able to issue their 2019 permits. And it'll be several months until the legislature resolves that glitch so that they
Marine
can.
Harbor, the shellfish permit?
The crab, I guess crab pot permits or crab permits, the DEC permit for it.
The actual card, Martha? It's the-
With everything on it? With everything broken down on it?
What do you mean?
Because there's more than one, you get a card and you have,
There are
those little
multiple
things.
I think
licenses
it's the entire
attached.
permit, Martha,
Oh.
correct?
Yeah,
There are
they're
multiple-
not issuing anything right now for 2019. And so,
They did issue up until Christmas, as I did receive my permit, my harvest.
I think they send out a notice telling people if they did it before a certain date, they'd be able to get things. But now anyone who goes to DEC up in Setauket won't be able to obtain these permits. So if the board has more questions about the specific permits, I can get that, and we can put it on for work session.
We did, back about 8 years ago, when the DEC was changing over their computer system, they were not sending out their, basically licenses until the end of February. And that year, we said instead of having a DEC current license, that we were going to use the license from the year before.
And that's
Would-
what the DEC is doing right now.
Which seemed to have worked all right, but, there are always people that are trying to get around, the licensing and our rigid licensing protocol. I would be fine with the 2018 commercial licenses to be used, but that's only one person, either Billy's was a
Yeah,
hard.
I'm fine with that too, but the only thing I'm worried about is you might get a handful of newcomers.
Well,
They
so,
would not,
They would not be able to get it because they
Right.
can't prove it,
so that's an issue for them, but unfortunately, that's
Yeah, unless
on
they
the
get some type
DEC,
of, unless
that's,
they get some type of letter from the DEC.
That's-
they wouldn't be able to even, you'd be able to harvest in the town, but you wouldn't be able to drive anywhere with the shellfish, so they wouldn't even
Yeah.
be able to. So, I mean, if it's okay with the board, maybe we should, until March 1st, follow using the 2018 commercial DEC shellfish for verification for our permits.
okay.
Did they give you an idea of what the time frame was?
When I talked to the attorney, he said it's the legislature, so he really has no control over when they fix this. So he said they hope it's soon, but it could be several months.
And then it could be, so if it was set until March 1st, then it could be extended
Yeah.
if necessary?
Yeah, but I mean, we would still have all the other criteria to verify that
You're a
hold
resident.
A resident,
You're a freeholder.
but that would,
Sure.
so.
So the DEC wanted to know whether or not we would honor their policy. And they also told me that as soon as they are able to issue the 2019 permits, that anyone who's just been relying on their previous year permit would have to go and get their 2019, and that would be the same to us, that they would have to submit it.
Yeah.
All
Should we
right.
put a formal resolution together, or?
Yeah, I can do that for the next meeting.
Could
Yeah.
you?
Sure.
How shall I instruct the staff in the interim? Should I tell them to verbally accept the 2018 permits until the formal resolution on the 14th? Because that's a whole week.
I mean, most of the guys are gonna be coming in right now to get their permits, and most of them do take a whole entire day off to their licenses, so.
So does the board want me to extend that courtesy up until the formal resolution is passed?
Okay with that?
Sure.
Okay, so we'll accept the 2018,
Yes.
Ed? Okay, the board's
I
good
would,
with
I would
that?
hang something in the office.
I'm sorry, Bill?
Hang something up in the office, so just in case you have a new
A
person.
notice.
A notice, just in case you have a new person on.
Okay, so we'll put a formal notice up?
Yeah.
Okay.
A formal
And then
notice.
you'll draft the resolution for Monday, Martha?
Yes.
Okay. I'll instruct the staff. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for bringing that up.
Okay, good.
And we should notify the Bay Constables what we're doing also.
Okay, so
Okay.
let Alan, Rich
All
know.
right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Are you done?
I'm done.
All right, does anybody else have anything else? All right, I'd like to adjourn the meeting.
I'd just like to say thank you to everyone for doing a night meeting for Mecox Bay Management Plan. I think it was really important, I think it was really helpful, and we got a few new and different voices. So thank you to everyone involved in making that happen.
Good.
Good, thank you.
All right, I need a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.